Well, how's everyone? Good? All right. How have you been keeping up with your daily meditation practice? Yes? Terrific. Okay. I wanted to actually do a few different kinds of meditation, introduce a few more things today. So before we do that, then by now you should all know the most important thing at the beginning of the session. We adjust our motivation. So again, just in a brief way, thinking that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings who, just like me, want happiness and peace and want to avoid suffering. And in order to do that, I must learn about the various techniques which lead to lasting happiness, and also learn about the techniques and practices that will help my mind be rid of the afflictive emotions. And therefore, I'm going to participate in this course, and especially this session here today. And also keep in mind, even at the very beginning, to think that as I am able to increase my own inner qualities, then I'll be in a better position to share and guide others to do the same thing. And hopefully our practices will soon lead us to our highest state of development, that of complete enlightenment, in which time we can then be of utmost benefit and guide all the other living beings in the best and most effective way. Okay, so that's why we've come. And then the other thing that we've been doing is a few preliminary prayers. So again, to keep our mind in the right place. So yeah, Mary Ellen, maybe can you do the screen share with that?
Can you see it?
Okay. Yes.
Good.
So when we do this, I think we mentioned maybe in the first class, but you know, since we're doing this practice for all sentient beings, we can visualize actually all sentient beings here around us, and we can think that we're the chant leader, as it were, leading them in these prayers. And again, it's not just to recite the words, but as we do, try to reflect on the meaning and as best we can. So yeah, let's begin. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the fully destroyed, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder of the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born in this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime, pure reality to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path of liberation, wholly feel qualified with realizations. You who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma Refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devote homage, to all worthy of respect bodies, bowing with bodies as many as all atoms, realms, and all respects. With supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual elaboration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Okay. So, by the way, it'd be good, even though your microphones are off, if you, recite verbally, out loud along with me. So it is said, in doing that, you collect the virtue of the speech. Of course, when you reflect on the meaning of those words, you're collecting virtue with your mind. And they also say that just sitting in the teaching with a kind of, disciplined posture, sitting upright rather than, lounging around, then you collect merit with the body. So anyway, it's good to recite out loud. And then also, I think one of you I saw had a cat in her lap. Very nice. So then if you have any animals around and they hear you reciting, then they also get the imprints of these particular prayers. Okay. So now the refuge in Bodhichitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So, I think it's mentioned in my biography that I had trained a bit in the Theravadan tradition before settling in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And so in the Theravadan tradition, there's this, if I remember correctly, this word in Pali, I think it's ehipasiko, ehipasiko. And it means, kind of see for yourself, or, see with your own experience. And so, and in the Zen tradition, where I also trained, it's very interesting. So I was in a Zen monastery outside of Kyoto in Japan. And there was one monk who's from Switzerland, actually. And since he knew English, then he sort of was guiding and training me. The sort of Roshi, the head of the temple, didn't know any English. So I stayed there for a while, and one day, they had a small kind of library. Well, I don't know if you would call it a library, a bookshelf with some books in English, and there's one book, it was actually on the Heart Sutra, that I saw and started reading it. And so this Swiss monk came and he said, I see you reading that book. Yeah, someone gave it to me, 6 months ago. What do you think? And I said, oh yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've never thought about some of these things before. And so I asked him, oh, did you like the book? What did you think? And he's like, oh no, I haven't read it yet. Actually, for the first 6 years, when we enter the monastery, we're not allowed to read. Okay. So the thought is there that, they meditate, right? And through your meditation experience, then the answers somehow, come to dawn on you. But here in the Gelugpa tradition, I think many of you know, the studies are very much emphasized. Here I'm, in the Geshe Studies program, 25 years. So it can be quite a heavy study emphasis, even for those of you who aren't in the Geshe Studies program. But for me personally, especially with this first module where we're talking about the mind, then I think it's important to ground whatever we're trying to learn that's on these pages and in your readings with the experience, and that experience is coming through our meditation practice. So last week I sort of introduced this concept of the mind being clear and knowing, and I sort of left you with just a few thoughts. I didn't want to get into it too much, hoping that in your meditation practice you would sort of think about what that means and get some kind of experience of it. So did that work? Maybe. Okay. Well, in any case, we started our meditation practice very slow, no pressure. We were just trying to build a habit of getting into meditation. So I was very gentle with you guys, saying, okay, even just 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay. So now we've had 2 weeks of that. And now we have to, kind of turn up the notch a bit on our level of practice. Okay. So what I thought to do is now integrate and go a little bit more and guide you through a entire sort of meditation session. Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to do now. And then we'll talk a little bit, and then we can open up for questions. Okay. So first, then we're going to sort of imagine that we're just going to get into our meditation session, right? So get into a comfortable meditation position. And so many of you, you might have heard this 7-point Vairocana posture. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, we can maybe talk about that in detail some other time. But the most important thing is just to have a straight and upright back. So I see some of you are sitting on chairs. That's okay. If you are sitting in a chair, then try not to, lean back on the backrest, but come up a bit forward on the chair so that you're supporting your own weight with your own efforts. Okay. And then some people, they have a question as to hand position. So again, you can have your hands like this over your knees, right? You might see some people doing this, like especially in the yogic tradition. There's this on the top of the knees like that, right? But then we have this, it's called the Darani Mudra, with your left hand down, your right hand on top of it, and your thumbs gently touching like this, right? And you put that in your lap. And so now I'm sitting in the half lotus posture, right? So then my left hand is right on the heel of my right foot. And then it becomes actually in a good position. It's about a 1 palm, yeah, below the navel. Okay. But if you're sitting on a chair, then, you know, you can just have it in your lap like that, or you can have your hands on your knees downward like that. Okay. And then we make sure that, you know, there's a little bit of space between our elbows and the body. And then many of us, if we're sitting on, you know, working on our computers all day, then our posture tends to be quite bad, and especially our shoulders get quite rounded. So then at the beginning as well, you can just sort of roll your shoulders. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. You can see more of my body. Yeah. Roll your shoulders up and back so that your scapula or your shoulder blades are in line with your body. Okay. Oops. And then we just tuck our chins into the neck like this. Okay. So, you know, it's like this movement you see in Indian dancing, right? If you know Hindi movies, right? So it's just bringing it in. You'll feel some elongation at the back of the neck here. Okay. And then different meditation teachers say different things about keeping the eyes open or closed. So in general, it's a little bit easier to get concentrated when your eyes are closed, but it's also easier to fall asleep. So for that reason, in this tradition, just trying to keep the eyes slightly open so that some light is able to come in, just like that. And then our mouth is closed, but our teeth are not clenched. And then you can put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, okay, behind your teeth. And then one instruction that I heard is just gently suck in so that there's no air in the mouth. So create a slight vacuum and then just leave it. So that will help to avoid excessive salivation while meditating. Okay. All right. So that's the basic meditation posture. And normally what I like to do at the beginning of the session, then after getting into the posture, then doing just a quick scan of the body and try to see if there's any pockets of tension. So we mentioned before that many of us, we hold tension in the facial muscles. So we might be, you know, kind of squinting the eyes or crinkling the brow or, you know, pursing the lips in some way. So just soften all of those facial muscles. And then just gently and deliberately continue on through the rest of your body and try to identify those pockets of tension. When you feel or notice that there are some pockets of tension, then gently release. Allow yourself to just relax. And if there are some areas that are sort of more tense, then one strategy you can use is to imagine, let's say you have some tension in your shoulders. You can imagine that you breathe into that area in your body. And then when you exhale, along with your breath, all the tension in that area is also released. Okay. So now I wanted to continue with the 9-point breathing meditation. Okay. So have you all done this before? If you have? Yes? Okay. So some yes, some no. Okay. So this is a little bit of a, nice little practice that is, again, good to do at the beginning of the session. and you can actually do this at any time throughout the day. So, sorry if you're getting into a good meditation, I'm interrupting that. But here, you'll have to look, okay? So, first, we do a visualization, okay? So, there are 3 channels you can think of, energy channels in the body. So, we have the right, left, and central channel, okay? So the right channel is red in color. And so we visualize that it comes from the nostril, the right nostril, and then follows our skull like this, and then, curves down and then runs parallel to the spine, okay? Then we have the blue central channel, which ends at this point between our eyebrows, and that similarly goes up, right, and comes down. Okay, these all end about 4 finger widths below the belly button, the navel. And then we have the left nostril, which is white in color, and that follows the body like this. Okay, so normally the right and left channels, they will come and attach into the central channel, like this. Can you see? But here at the beginning of this practice, we sort of mentally think that we come, take them out of the central channel and put them into each other. You understand? Okay. So like attaching 2 straws, yeah, they come into each other. Okay. All right. So now, you take your hands, you put your thumb on the base of your ring finger, okay, like this, and make fists. Okay. All right. So now first, with your right hand, you take your pointer finger and you block your left nostril like this. Okay. All right. Then, all right. So you breathe in through your right nostril. So here, you breathe in for 4 counts. You hold it for 4 counts. And then you breathe out of your left nostril. So move, and then exhale, and here for 8 counts. So that ratio of 1, 1, 2, if you are a Olympic swimmer or you have good lung capacity, then you can even do 5, 5, 10, 6, 6, 12. If you, let's say, have asthma or you can't do 4 counts, then 3, 3, 6 is okay, right? Like this. And then as you exhale, you think that the anger, the hatred, that kind of energy is also leaving the body with the air. Okay. So we do that for 3 rounds. Okay. Then after we're done with that, so I'm just gonna walk you through it, and then we'll all do it together, right? Then we switch hands, right? And so here we inhale through the left, hold, and then exhale through the right. And then we think that as we exhale through the right, all the attachment, desire, those get expelled along with the breath, right? So we also do that for 3 rounds. And then we reinsert the right and left channel into the central channel, okay? And then we do the same thing here with, put both the hands on the knees and then breathe in through both nostrils, okay? Breathe in for 4, hold for 4. And here, when we hold, we can sort of, flex our lower doors, so our kind of, sphincter muscles, and sort of imagine that we hold the energy contained in the breath at the part, at our navel, our navel chakra. And then as we breathe out, then think all the energy, the good energy stays in the central channel, right? And then the ignorance and confusion get expelled through the space between your eyebrows. Okay? So we do that for 3 rounds. 3 plus 3 plus 3. That's how we get to 9-round breathing. Okay? So we're going to do that now. And then after we do those 9 rounds, we just settle into the normal kind of mindfulness of breath and meditation. Okay, so I will guide you through that. Okay, so let's do. All right. So now, after you finish the 9 rounds, then again, just settle back into a very natural rhythm of the breath, very effortless, letting go of that thought that you have to breathe in for a certain number of counts or exhale for a certain number of counts. Just allow your breath to settle into its natural flow and rhythm. And as we do that, then try to focus on those sensations in your body as you breathe in and out. So wherever those are manifesting themselves, the rising and falling of the abdomen, the expanding and contraction of the chest cavity, or the air passing over the skin in the nostril area, then just observe those sensations. And as we try to observe the breath, then if there's other appearances that come to the mind, be they external, like different sounds, or internal, like different thoughts, then do not follow after them. Just let them go, let them pass like clouds in the sky. So now we'll continue with this, just awareness of the breath, meditation for 5 more minutes, and then go on to our next phase. Okay, so now after we've become quite grounded and centered on our breath, then we can allow our awareness to expand to all of the different kinds of consciousness, the sense consciousnesses and the mental consciousness. So now try to be aware of everything that is arising in your field of these various consciousnesses. So when there's a sound, then you can note that there is a sound, but not judging the sound, not getting into the conceptual overlay that, oh, that's a nice sound, this is not a nice sound. So try not to get into this judging of pleasant, unpleasant, good and bad. Similarly, when there's conceptual thoughts, then we can be aware that, oh, there's a thought, but again, not following after them. So not getting caught up in the content of our experiences, but just trying to sit back as a third-party, impartial observer, just watching everything as it arises and passes away in our field of consciousness. And rather than getting focused on the content of that experience, try to focus on what it is like to be the experiencer. So in those times when there might not be other thoughts coming, or if it's quiet where you are, then yes, you can just continue with your breath. So have that sort of as the home of your meditation. But then just be open to whatever happens and meet it with this pure awareness, free of conceptuality. So now we'll continue in this way for another 5 minutes. Okay, so now gently come out of the meditation and bring your awareness back to your room. Okay, so those instructions, you're able to follow them? All right.
No.
Oh.
I think that's Dawn. Did you have a question?
So, do you have those in writing somewhere?
Yes, I will send them out after class today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, we can send that out. And also I did this meditation 101 course, and what I'm trying to do is those are recorded, and I'm trying to edit out just the guided meditations from that course and make those available to you. Because at the beginning, it can be nice. Some people do like a guided meditation. So we'll also have that hopefully soon.
Includes the instructions on the nostril alternative or alternating. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that. And this breathing meditation, the just kind of pure awareness meditation, different things we're trying to do. Okay. So this just appeared to my mind. Maybe it's good to take a little bit of a step back and talk about meditation. So there is this misconception among some people as they get into meditation that the mind should be totally blank and without any thoughts, right? But those of you who studied Logic, then you'll have heard of the mind being an object possessor. Have you heard that? Object possessor? Okay. So basically, without getting into too much terminology, but you know, we have the objects like our books, tables, you know, whatever the mind might be perceiving, right? And so then the mind is object possessor in the sense that it has a particular object, right? So for something to be a mind, it has to have an object. So this thought that, oh, the mind has to be totally blank, well, that's just not possible because every mind has an object. Now, what happens to many of us, right, when we have a first kind of experience, okay, we have a running mental conceptual commentary that's always going along with it. So we have, you know, a thought, right? And then we think, oh, it's a good thought. That's a pleasant thought. Or, you know, a sound, oh, I like that. And our mind goes after it. We have, you know, clinging and attachment to those things that are pleasant. And the things that are unpleasant, then we have some kind of aversion to it, right? So one thing that we're trying to do with this meditation is develop what is called in some circles these days, this non-judgmental awareness, right? Where we're aware of everything that is going on in our field of consciousness, but we're not judging. We don't have aversion to the unpleasant nor clinging to the pleasant. Okay, and so just trying to rest in that bare awareness. So what I like to say is, especially at our level, then those other conceptual thoughts will bubble up to the surface. But normally, then we go on those trains of thoughts. We catch the train, right? And we follow up the one thought with the second and the third, and then we get into this kind of discursive thinking. So here, if we just recognize that, oh, there's a thought, right? Then we can, how do you say, break that process of following the thought with another thought, right? So this concept of, or this practice of labeling what comes into our field of consciousness, that is actually how the Vipassana tradition of the great Burmese master, Mahasi Sayadaw, how they practice. So I think some of you who have done some meditation retreats in the Vipassana tradition, then that is one of the main sort of traditions that has come into being. And the sort of Western mindfulness teachers, Jack Kornfield, and the folks at up the road from you at Spirit Rock, or is it down the road? I'm not sure. Anyway, then many of them employ this practice of just labeling, and in so doing, then it already serves as a little bit detachment, that we don't get overwhelmed with what's going on in the content of our experiences, right? Then, of course, the other very famous Vipassana tradition, that of S.N. Goenka, then they are practicing more also with having this mind of equanimity towards the bodily sensations. So they're also practicing not having aversion for the unpleasant nor clinging to the pleasant, but they don't employ the labeling. Okay. So anyway, just some things to be aware of. Now, as we look at the bigger picture with why something like this is desired, right? So then, yeah, there can be a little bit of another misconception. And so the thought is, okay, we're sitting in our meditation, then a pain comes in the knee, right? Or wherever in the body. And then the thought is, oh, if we don't have aversion for it, it'll go away. Right? So, right. Well, if we don't, engage, then these things will go away, right? But even that, right, hoping for some kind of, results by just being mindful of it, is itself a kind of aversion. Do you know what I mean? Right. So the great master and meditation teacher Mingyur Rinpoche, he mentions this in his instructions, that like there's this thought that we're trying to practice this kind of non-judgmental awareness, but actually we are using the non-judgmental awareness itself as a means to get rid of the things that we have aversion to. So it's like, just trying to, as he mentions, we have like an analogy of a stream. And so normally, a stream is going by, and then if you throw leaves in it, right, those get very carried off by the currents, right? So similarly, in our own stream of consciousness, our stream of experiences, if we get so caught up in the content of those experiences, we will get sort of swept away by the current. Now, in a stream or a river, then this thought can come, oh, well, if we just dam up the river, right, then the water will stop. But as you know, from dams, what happens is all that pressure starts to build up. And, eventually, as we saw a few months ago here in India, there's some dams that break, right? So here, rather than going to the extreme of getting totally carried away by the river, or trying to dam up and interrupt the flow of our experience, which is not feasible, it's not possible, then the solution is we come up onto the bank of the river and just watch as it goes by. Understand? So this kind of bare awareness meditation that we're trying to employ, I think that analogy is helpful, right? We just are on the bank of the river, so impartially observing what is going on in the mind, but not getting carried away in one particular experience. So yeah, that in and of itself, it may bring peace. It has the potential to bring peace, but again, we're not doing it to get peace, right? We're doing it just so we can come to know how our mind works, right? At first, trying to know, these kind of mental processes. Of course, if we were to, try to think of how this can be then applicable in our daily life and how it can help us be better people, then yes, we can say that interrupting this habitual process of getting some kind of external stimuli and then reacting with aversion or attachment, and then acting out on those reactions, that can be very, very helpful in and of itself, right? So just an example, but in the Vipassana retreats, right, then you oftentimes don't eat afternoon. One takes the kind of 8 precepts, which involves not eating afternoon. So if you've not done this, then in the evening you get hungry, okay? But you've taken a vow, and you can't eat, okay? So then you're in a situation where you have this feeling of hunger, right? You're hungry. Normally, what we do, we have that feeling of hunger, and we go and grab some food, grab a snack, or more, and therefore satisfy our hunger. But in this situation of the retreat, where you have that awareness of hunger, but you don't have the out of being able to eat, then what do? You sit with your hunger, okay? And if you kind of sit long enough, yes, maybe it'll go away, right? Maybe it'll go away. And in my experience, it was very interesting to see this happening, because you see, normally it's like, okay, hunger, I must eat for it to go away, right? But then you see, oh, there's hunger, and then without eating, it can also go away, So, interesting. Okay, then we apply that to other things. So, because it's not just about, going on a diet and losing weight. But similarly, when we have other afflictions that come up, someone criticizes us, right? Then we have this strong reaction. Oh, how could they say that about me? What? And then our normal reaction to getting criticized is to criticize them back, right? But if instead we notice that feeling of irritation and slight anger, coming up, then we can just watch. I don't have to react in the way that my anger is sort of pushing me to react right now. And then it'll go away. Probably. No, it will go away. And we don't have to, engage in acts of retaliation, right? So even that kind of process, and you can apply it to anything, other kinds of craving. So this very process of this non-judgmental awareness has been used by the UCLA psychiatrist Jeffrey Schwartz to help with addiction problems. So for the people, it's the same thing. Whatever kind of addiction we have, there's this desire that comes up, and we normally identify with the desire. We have to go after the desire and get that object, right? But just placing some space in between all that and making that process less reactive, then can bring the space to get out of those addictive behaviors. So, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say. Just talk about the big picture a bit, and especially about how we can then use this practice to, help with our lives, our behavior, yeah. So then the other thing too, we're talking about having these concepts. Then, so we have the sort of bare experience, and then most of the time we don't just leave the bare experience as bare experience, but we have a conceptual framework on top of it, and then based on our concepts, then different afflictions can arise. So, who was it? Who was it with the cat? When I saw the cat on your lap, I was remembered of this story. So, here at the monastery, there's a lot of stray cats, and many years ago, there was a stray cat that came around, and I was sort of taking care of it for the time, and then one day I was meditating or trying to meditate, and the cat was in my lap. Okay, and I was fairly concentrated, and all of a sudden, there's some warm feeling on my lap. Okay, and I was like, what is that? What is that? And then, okay, yeah, it's kind of wet. It's kind of wet. So she kind of meditate. And then I'm actually thinking like, did somehow I spill like my tea on my lap? This thought comes. And then I look down, I'm like, oh no, the cat peed in my lap, right? And then it's like, how? Then the aversion comes, right? And it's like, take the cat off, I have to go wash my robes, right? Does your cat pee in your lap? Anyway, the point is, you see, that first original experience, you see, it presents itself nakedly, as it were, right? There's just some sensation, sensation of heat, sensation of, moistness that's on the lap. That sensation would have been identical had I spilled some, warm tea in my lap, right? So the sensation is the same. Then what happens? When I then start to identify oh, no, that's not T. That's P, right? And then, the agency, right? Oh, this cat then did this to me, then the kind of irritation, the disgust, all those things, it's coming up from my own kind of concepts where I, have this concept of cat pee being very, unclean and all this kind of stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? So those bare experiences, for them to get to a point where the afflictions are arising, there's a few steps where our concepts are doing a lot of the work there, right? And so anyway, when we get in touch with just this sort of bare awareness, and we're able to really stay in that space without getting so caught up in those contents of the experience, then it can also help the afflictions from arising, so strongly. All right. Oh, yikes. A little bit running out of time. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say about, the mind as the sort of experiencer. And then I guess last thing I wanted to say is then just loop around back with this, the mind as being clear and knowing, right? So I think now you have a bit of experience with this, and I'll just say what is there in the traditional text. But again, ehipasiko. So don't just, sort of take my words and then, parrot them back on the exam, but really try to see in your own experience what is meant by this, what is meant by the mind, right? What is meant by our experience. And so the mind being clear and knowing, I think I alluded to this last week, but this concept of clarity, okay, sometimes they liken that to a mirror, right? And so the mirror is clear in the sense that whatever you put in front of it, it can then reflect that object. So another way to put it in terms of the mind is the mind arises in the aspect of whatever the object is, okay? So you can try this too. We're doing the bare awareness meditation. So when there's sounds, okay, one little exercise is to think, okay, is my mind somehow going out to the sound? Is there a sound out there that's sort of coming in? Or is the mind just arising in the aspect of the sound? This is in koan, if there's a tree in the forest, if a tree falls in the forest and no one there to hear it, does it make a sound, right? So you can think, are there some sounds out there independent from the mind? Anyway, that's getting off on a tangent. But what we're talking about here, so the mind is clear. That means anything, can arise, be it good or bad. So not just sounds, but also different emotions, afflictive emotions as well as positive emotions. Okay, and then clear and knowing. So knowing, this was the doubt I brought up last week. Well, does that mean that every mind knows its object? We said that every mind has an object, but it becomes very clear that not every mind knows its object, because, for example, the mind that's thinking about, the horn of a rabbit, right? There's no horn of a rabbit. So, something to be known, it has to exist, right? The very definition of what it means to be existent in the Buddhist framework is that which is realized by a valid cognition. Valid cognition is some kind of mind, right? So even by that, if something is realized by the mind, it exists. If something exists, it necessarily has to be realized by the mind, right? So the horn of a rabbit is not realized by the mind, but we have a mind that thinks of a horn of a rabbit, right? So how is that mind that is thinking of a horn of a rabbit, how is that, clear and knowing? Okay. Anyway, so the some of you who might have studied the Buddhist tenet systems, you might have heard of the Prasangika Madhyamika system, right? Set out by, of course, Nagarjuna, but later Chandrakirti. And in that system, which is actually the highest of the Buddhist philosophical systems, they say, well, actually, every mind knows or realizes what appears to it. Okay? So it knows its appearance. You understand? So when we think of the horn of a rabbit, I'm sorry, that horn of the rabbit is so common in the Tibetan texts. Anyway, but when we think of a horn of a rabbit, we do have some kind of mental image that's coming to the mind, right? Or, yeah, when we have the other one, all right, if we wear sunglasses and we go and look at a mountain, right, they say there's the eye consciousness that apprehends a blue snow mountain, right? So, of course, the snow is not blue, it's white. It's only appearing as blue because you have the sunglasses on. But you know what's appearing to you. You have this appearance of the blue snow mountain, and yeah, you know that. So that's how the Prasangikas get out of this, potential debate about how all minds are knowing. But even in the lower kind of tenet systems, then there is this sense of, experiencing, right? So you don't, it's not knowing in the sense of realizing, right? But you have this, experience that, oh, blue snow mountain, right? There's a kind of immediacy that is, experienced by you who have that particular sense consciousness. So anyway, when we say the mind, it is not, it's not very precise word in the English language, because, you have these different senses where you can say, I've changed my mind, right? Which means, you've had a decision, and then, oh, now you kind of come to take another decision, right? So here, when we say the mind is clear and knowing, it's not talking about that kind of mind, like a deliberative function that comes to a certain outcome or decision, but it's more talking about this sort of bare experiencer, right? That can experience all, all the sense consciousnesses, all those different thoughts, right? But even this word experience too is also a little bit imprecise, because we can say that, a doctor with many years of experience, right, is, best in his field or her field, whatever it is, right? So that sense of experience, just having, done something a lot of times, that's not what we're talking about with the mind as experiencer. It's the sort of, the just bare kind of awareness of whatever is going on in this moment, right? That's what we mean by the mind being clear and knowing. So as we do the meditation that we did at the beginning, we're trying to get in touch with that, that bare experience in this moment, without the kind of conceptual baggage that we then add on top of it. So anyway, that then brings into the topic we're going to talk about next week. I do want to get into the difference then between that and the brain, but just to sort of preview that, because I do want to open up for your questions. So here in the Buddhist worldview, then you know, the mind and the brain are you know, not identical, and the mind, since it is this kind of experiencer, well, in the lower schools, they say it's, you know, not physical, right? Of course, when we start to get into the Vajrayana system, the Tantra system, there's actually talk of how there's the mind and the wind, okay? And so the wind is like the energy, right? And that is a type of form. And the mind sort of rides on that energy. And so they liken it to a horse and its rider. So wherever the horse goes, the rider also goes. So similarly, wherever there is a mind, there's also the energy upon which that mind sort of rides. So anyway, there's that presentation. But in any case, right, the mind is not identical sort of to the brain, but it is dependent on the brain, in the sense that, you know, if you were to damage parts of the brain, then or you damage your say eyes, then the consciousness, the eye consciousness, can also be affected, and through certain trauma and brain injuries, then people can lose their memory and so forth. But this kind of stream of consciousness that will then flow from life to life, then that is not dependent on just this brain. And the subtle-most consciousness, which we had alluded to, the different levels of consciousness, right? We have the gross levels of consciousness, like our sense consciousness, and then more subtle levels of consciousness, like in a dream, and then the most subtle level of consciousness that appears during deep sleep. So it's only the very subtlest level of consciousness that goes on to from life to life. And that one, at the moment of death, it says in the Vajrayana system that mind, it collects at our heart chakra. And then from there, goes on to the next life. So anyway, we'll discuss more about this next week. But yeah, I guess one thing to maybe just have you think about over the next week. You see, there's the materialistic scientific worldview that will just equate, the consciousness with, the brain, and they deny this kind of whole notion of there being a mind that is independent from the brain, that can then, travel from life to life and, reincarnate and so forth. So, what do we think about this? So here, the point is a few things. One, so we don't have time to go into the whole arguments about reincarnation, but the only thing, and it's a little bit unsatisfying, but the only sort of argument you'll see in the ancient Indian texts by Dharmakirti is just this argument that since the mind is of this nature of being clear and knowing, or an experiencer, right? Then that is of a different type than material, right? Material objects, form and matter, right? So, I mean, one way to think about this is, if you were to eat an orange, right? And now you're trying to explain to someone who's never eaten an orange before what that experience is like. You say, oh, these different neurotransmitters are released in your brain, and this part of the brain lights up. Could you ever get to a point of detail where the other person would know? There's a quite famous article written by Thomas Nagel. What is it like to be a bat? Right. So similarly, this process of getting knowledge through sonar, right? Can we ever really know what that's like? Not being bats. Anyway, some things to think about. So let's leave it at that, and I'll open it up for some questions now.
If there are questions, you can raise your hand or you can unmute. Julian?
Yeah, so my question would be just kind of about general actions in life. Is any action not taken towards, like, as a step into enlightenment, like a wasted action, like, effort put into going to work, or, is that considered at some point wasted if you're not going towards that path of enlightenment? Or is that part of it?
Yeah. So now the thing is, and this is why we're always emphasizing the importance of motivation, is that with a proper motivation, then even the seemingly normal worldly actions, we can transform into our path of enlightenment. So even something like going to work, right? You can do it with a motivation. I think we talked about Bodhichitta, right? So you can think, for example, that, well, you're trying to continue on your path, right? And therefore, you need to have all resources to sustain your life. You need to save up some money so you can go do retreat. Maybe one day, take time off to do a long extended retreat. Okay. So, one of my friends actually, okay, there's a whole kind of subculture of expats in India. Okay. They come to India for like, maybe 6 months a year, and they go back to their country in the West and like work whatever kind of job, and then just come out to India for 6 months. So one of my friends from Arkansas, she would repair bicycles, okay, as her job. And her Lama told her that, when you're doing that, okay, just think you're doing this so you can, save up money so you can go to India and, continue with your practice and retreat. And then every bicycle you repair becomes your path, becomes a way to, take you to enlightenment. What do you think about that? So similarly, eating food too, right? We need to stay healthy. We need to be strong enough so we can, study and have energy for other practices that benefit others. So we need to eat, we need to stay healthy, we need to sleep, right? So even that, before you go to bed, I used to do this. Now I'm too lazy, so I don't even do this. But at one point I was doing this practice, like at the end of the day, sort of kind of saying to the Buddhas, okay, I've done all I can for today. I'm tired, but now I'm going to rest so that tomorrow I can continue with my virtuous activities, something like this. So, yeah. And then, of course, when you go to work, you'll have many opportunities to benefit your customers, benefit your other coworkers, benefit your bosses, benefit the shareholders of the company. If you're working for a public company, hey, it's okay. They want happiness too. Yeah. So there's no lack of opportunity to benefit others, even in our worldly activities. How does that sound?
Great, thank you. Thanks for that.
But I will say this, maybe it'll be harsh. But yeah, maybe strictly speaking, if we're not living our lives with bodhicitta or some kind of dharma motivation, then it is wasted. It is. Okay, anything else?
I have a question. I know this is Hannah. So I know you mentioned we're emphasizing about the mind being the experiencer or the observer. But we kind of also know how the mind is a creator of stuff. So if you can kind of help us kind of think about how to deal with that the fact that the mind also is
Yes, I understand. Yeah, yes, I was actually I was going to mention this point, and thanks for bringing it up. So yeah, this is what I was saying, started to say with this mind being a little bit a nebulous topic. So it's very true what we said, that the mind is the creator. And if you remember how we were talking about that, there is one, relating it to karma, that due to our virtuous or non-virtuous states of mind, that impels us to do virtuous or non-virtuous actions that then ripens as experiences of happiness or suffering. And then we also have the concepts, right? Depending on how we think about a certain situation, that in itself creates our reality, right? Then we have this sort of bare awareness, okay? And that's when we say, the kind of conventional nature of the mind is this, clear and knowing. Okay. So, yeah. In the first senses, when we're talking about the mind as creator, it's not just this bare, awareness that we're talking about, but rather it also brings up the conceptuality, right? And yeah, especially when we talk about the second sense, depending on how we think about our reality, then that shifts our experience. Like, the warm, moist feeling on my leg, when I just kept it as warm and moist, it was okay. But once I started to think, oh, that's cat pee, right? Then my experience of that changed a lot. Do you understand what I mean? So those, when we say that the Dharma, right, to thoroughly subdue one's own mind, right, then what we're doing is working with those, first two senses of the mind, where it's more like the kind of, yeah, maybe our attitudes as well, right? Where we transform in the sense that when there is a situation, of some discomfort, right? Right now, instead of being irritated and retaliating, then to kind of diffuse the irritation and deal with it in a different way, right? So that's those kind of reactions and mental attitudes we have towards the content of our experience is sort of what we mean by the mind in the first sense, and the mind being the creator of all. But on the other sense, the mind is what's is experiencing, right, everything. Does that help? Am I answering your
Yes,
question?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it's weird. We have this, rikpa. I don't know if any of you, like, especially when you get into the Dzogchen or Mahamudra teachings, we start to deal with the kind of conventional nature of the mind, and that's just talking about, this kind of bare experience. Okay. Something else? Are we out of time?
We're out of time, but
Okay, but if there's another question, we can do as well.
Actually, I have a question, James. One thing I've been struggling with, and you touched on earlier, is in the meditation practice, it's always been to try to clear my mind, but meditating on, like, thinking about what is a clear mind or what is a knowing mind, I find that I'm being blocked. Like I almost like want to write it down, like, to really think it through, but it kind of goes against all the other training of getting thoughts out of your mind. And I don't know if you have any advice on, like, do we just think it all through almost, or how do you, is it an analytical meditation? It's just so different from what I've done in the past. Does it make sense? My question is,
yeah,
like,
it does. Yeah, so there are many kinds of meditation, analytic meditation being one that we're going to employ a lot more, especially going forward. So for now, okay, you can have them separate. So at the time when you're practicing this bare awareness meditation, then even if there's some insight, then don't engage with it, and just kind of be aware of that as if it were any other thought, right? And just kind of step back. There was a saying, this is in the context of Vipassana meditation, but the saying was, if during the course of your Vipassana meditation, the Buddha appears in front of you, you should mentally think, not now, Buddha, I'm practicing, Vipassana, I'm trying to focus on my breath, right? So similarly, just on the bank of the river, watching everything that goes by. Now, later, when you arise from that kind of more meditative state, you can do a sort of contemplation where then you sort of think about your experience and do a more discursive, analytic type meditation.
so think about it, let thoughts go, and then later on contemplate it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try that. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we'll leave it at that. So now, that meditation we did at the beginning of the session, we'll send that out, or some kind of handouts for that. And I want you to continue with that a little bit, upping the ante a bit with our practice, and even that 9-round breathing that we did. It can be very helpful even throughout the course of the day to bring some calmness and stability, because as we slow down the breath, that has an effect on our sympathetic nervous system, I think it's called, and that will automatically lead to a kind of, decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure. And so that can be very helpful. It only takes a couple minutes. All right, so let's just dedicate the merit quickly. So think that due to the positive energy that we've created in our time here today, may all the living beings quickly be free from all their suffering and attain the state of complete, peerless happiness and bliss. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very
See
much.
you next week.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Take care. Be well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, Marianne.